Yes, welcome back to our HTML fundamental class. In the last class, we tried to explore some of the important things that we need to know about HTML. Like I promised, today's class we're going to try to understand the practical use of our attributes and tags. Just like we said, for those of us that did not listen properly in the first class, our tags are elements and we have the opening and the closing tag. Nevertheless, we have some tags that are called the self-closing tag. So we jump into our practical. I want to believe you've installed your text editor software. For this class, I'll be using my Notepad++. So to start with, I will introduce my brackets, and I'm going to introduce what I call a doc type. Now, the doc type is to help the browser understand the type of document that we're working with. So here I'm going to write doc type equals to HTML. So the equal to here is not going to be visible, so I just put space HTML. Then I move on. The next thing I need to write is introduce what I called the HTML tag itself, so the browser can know that what I'm working with is HTML. Remember our standard, we say once you start with the opening tag, it's good for you to close it immediately. So in order for me not to forget, I will also close my HTML here as well. So now I can now put in space there and type in between. So this is our drawing of yesterday. So we see we have HTML here. Now in between the HTML, we're going to introduce the head tag. I did explain to you in the last module about the head tag. So I'm going to run through the head tag for you to see how that works again. So we introduce our head tag here now. So we head. Always remember that we're going to close the head tag again. We're going to close the head tag again. So we'll close the head tag again. So that means we now have our head tag. Now in between the head tag, we can now add the content that we desire. And one of the examples of the content is your title, which is the page title. So you introduce the title. Remember, we close our title as well. We close our title. In between the title is now where we want to put the information about the title. So for example, the title can be HTML class. So it means by the time I check the browser, what I'll be seeing on the top of that browser beside that icon is also called your favicon, no, the favicon, it's going to be HTML class. I hope that is clear. Now for us to do this, just what we have here now, it's a complete web page if we want to look at it. If we save this now, it's going to be a complete web page that we can view. Now for us to do that, we come to File and click on Save As, because you're saving. Now we can now put it as HTML class. So I'm going to call these HTML class. That's what I want to save it. Now under the Save As, what is the extension that you want to save this with? You need to select the extension that's appropriate for this, which is HTML. So I'm going to select HTML under my Save As for the extension. So you can see it here, HTML. Then I will select Save. Now the moment you do that, you can see that all your elements now comes in the appropriate colors, which is the blue. To be sure of this, before you even do your preview, if you click on the first HTML, you notice that the other one is automatically highlighted for you. It means that that tag is opened and is properly closed. The same thing to the head tag, the same thing to the title tag. So if you open your folder where you've saved, I've saved mine here, HTML class. I'm going to open that with my browser now. It's going to show you what you have saved. So you can see from my browser now, I've saved it, HTML class, but it is blank because we don't have any content inside of it. We don't have any content inside of it, so it's just blank for now. So we'll move on to adding content to this HTML page, so we can have some things inside of it. We're going to add content to our HTML page now, so we can have some things inside of that HTML page. I'm going to open the browser so we can see it fully. Okay, so now let's add content to it. So we've done the head. Now the next one we want to do is to introduce the body of the page. Remember that structurally your website is divided into three layouts. the header, the body, and the footer. So we'll work with the header right now. We're going to introduce the body. For me to introduce the body, I need to introduce the element for body. Then remember the standard, close it as well so you don't forget. And that's the body. Now anything we add within the body here will display inside the website. Will display inside the website. So instead of having the blank page like we currently have right now, we now have something there. So let's take, for example, let's just have the word empty. So we have the word empty here now. Or let's just have something else. Let's put an HTML class, for example. So many S. Now if you save it now, just save, and we'll go back to our browser to refresh it. So you can now see that we now have the body here showing in the HTML. So it's now showing the content because the content is inside the body. Take that and put within the title of this, and you save it now, then you no longer find it there again. So you can see now it's not part of the title, but the appropriate place we want to work with this is to be in our head, inside the body of the website, and not the head. Now we're going to explore some other elements about HTML before we continue with our practical. We're going to explore some other elements about this before we continue with our practical. Now another example we're going to look at element is what we call the headers. The headers, we have h1 to h6, and you can write that by putting the h1, for example, opening tag, then close the tag with h1 again. That is an header. So any text I put in here, for example, we'll put a text calling it header, it will carry the header format as an element. It will carry the header format as an element that we can use. So I'm going to open my slide for you quickly so you can see the other part of this. So you can see the other part of this, which is also the HTML that we are looking at. So we've explored all this. This is it. So we'll take it from this part. Now the headers. Now we have 6 of them, header 1 to header 6. So if we go back to our practical, we did an example for header 1. So if we try, let's try header 2, or let's try header 5, so we can see the difference. So I'll go to header 3, that is h3. Then I put the same text. Then I close the header as well. Now let's save this and preview on our browser. So you can see that the h1 is bigger than the h3. So that is the function of your header. It's like having a title to start your work. It's like having a title for a text of something that you're working on. Now the next element we're going to look at is your bold. Your bold is represented by a B, just B. So for me to do that in my practical, all I have to do is open tag, bold, and use the text. Maybe I'll use the text bold here. Then I close it as well with my bold. Now if I save this and also preview in my browser, you see I have a text that is bold. Now if I just type a text here and say bold, without it having the bold element or the bold tag, it will not be bold, it will just be that. So can you see the difference? Can you see the difference? Good. Okay, good. So we'll move to the next element that we want to try. So we have other elements here like the strong, the italic, the emphasis, the mark, and there are various elements that we can explore, Now let's go by the rules that says whatever you start with is what you would have to close with. So let's do a practical of that here now. Now if, for example, we want to have a text that is italic now, and this text is called bold, for example, and we want to close it as well. Now it means that this our text here called bold will be italic. Now nevertheless, if I want to make it bold in real time and also the same time make it to be italic, then I have to introduce the bold and the bold tag into it. Now there are 2 ways you can do this. You can either introduce the bold tag immediately within this part here and say bold, or You can bring it down and start with the bold, then the italic. It's still going to give you the same result. Then put the text bold. Then now we now close it. What are we closing with? Italic. Good. So we close it with the italic. Then we close it back with our bold. Now A and B are the same thing. You give us the same results. The same result. So let's test that. Open our browser and preview it. So you can see bold and bold are giving us the same result. So you might be wondering, we've been typing this on several lines, line 14, line 15, but they are all on the same line. That's because your HTML does not recognize this space here. For us to put a space, we can either type in the code or use a quick one, which is the line break. And the line break is represented by our BR. Now, the line break is an example of a self-closing tag. Remember, the italic, the bold, the H1 that we've used are having a closing tag. We need to have to open and close them. Now, for this one, we're using a self-closing tag. It means it can close itself. So if we save this now and we check, we see that that text is now on a new line. If you have done that, good job. Good job. If you have done that, good job. Now let's try another self-closing tag. Another self-closing tag is our image, the image tag. The image tag. For image tag to work, you need to introduce the image element as img. Then you need to introduce what we call the source. What is the source? Where is this image located? So the source is represented by the src. Then I put the equal to, then I need to call the location. So where is that image located and what is the name of the image? So at this point, you need to check your computer and look for where you have the image saved. So for example, if I have an image saved here, so I have an image saved here with the word AD. So that's an image, AD, that's the name of the image. So whatever the name of your image is and the extension, you have to understand it. So for this image is AD. So I'll come here and put source equal to ad dot jpeg. So my image is a jpg image, which is the jpeg image. Then I can now close it. Remember, it's self-closing, so I can close it at this point. Would you like us to test now? Okay, good. So let's check what we have done. Remember, open it, image, source, then close it. So I'm going to open that now to check my image. So you can see, that's it. Bravo. That's my image. So my image is now showing here because the image is a self-closing tag. I'm sure you've been able to do that. Now, what if I want to add some other information like my attributes? My attributes to this image, so that a web engine like an SEO engine can also read that information. Then I need to introduce my attributes by introducing the ALT. Then I'll put equal to, then what is the title of this attribute? An image of an ad. So depends on what you have in your image, you can always put that. Now it's not going to display directly under it, so let me save that and you can see it. So can you see that? That is not displaying under it because it's an attribute that we have put for that image. It's an attribute that we have put for that particular image. So I'm going to show some other things that we can explore. One of them is also strike. Strike. You've seen some text. Maybe you write something like this is my post, for example, and you want to change that from being post and it's an already existing article. Then you want to now use poster now. So you mean that I can run a strike in between this, and this can be used maybe in your English books or your journals that you want to use examples. So I introduce my strike here. Then I'll come at the end of the post and close it by putting strike again. Then I can save my work quickly. I'll preview that text. So can you see it now? This is my post. So you can see the text post has a strike in between it. There are various elements, like I said, that will have in HTML. So you can do more reading to explore. Like you know that this module is just the basic introduction to HTML. In our next module, we're going to be looking at some other things such as your anchor links your email and all the image anchor links and how you can link them up together. So please take your time to watch the video over and over again and ensure you try all the things that I've explained to you. So for your personal test, I will want you to try out the following tags on your own and see how beautiful they come out. So try out the following tags here that we have. We have strong, we have emphasis, we have mark, we have small, we've tried strike already, we have the underline, we have the insert, the sub, and the sub. Try out all these on your own in class. Thank you very much and see you in the next module.